Welcome to the Life of Being podcast, where we talk about all things life from a healthcare perspective all around the world. I'm your host, Kelly Tan, and in each episode, we'll explore stories, science, and wisdom to help you live well, think deeper, and express life fully. Let's begin. Today, we're joined by a phenomenal guest. We have Tellesfen Hughes, all the way from the UK. Tona was born in California to Norwegian parents and raised in Stockholm, where early life experiences, including a gap year in Paris, led her to pursue chiropractic. She trained at ACC, met her husband Stephen, and later moved to the UK to build both her family and her career. Tona has spent decades specializing in pregnancy and pediatric chiropractic care, teaching across the UK and Scandinavia, and ultimately founding her own clinic in 2007. Deeply committed to youth well-being, she launched the Surrey Teen Summit and later co-founded the Greenhub project for teens, an award-winning horticultural therapy initiative that has supported over 200 families. In 2024, Tona faced profound personal loss when her husband passed away in a tragic accident. Despite this, she has continued to lead her clinics and support the community with resilience, intuition, and a strong sense of purpose. The philosophy centers on trusting innate wisdom, practicing authentically, and listening to the inner voice that guides her work and life. Tona, welcome to the show.
Welcome. Thank you so much. That's strange listening back to that, actually.
I know you sent a really, really good summary of how your life has been. I always love understanding where is people from, what drives them to make the decision, and it's really nice to understand where you're coming from. And that brings me to the question in terms of what happened in that gap year when you're working as an au pair that makes you want to decide to be a chiropractor.
Yeah, so I think it's a longer story in the sense that when I grew up, I was always massaging my friends, and very
Hmm,
hands-on. But academically, I was very driven to languages.
really?
So yeah, and I was not into STEM subjects at all. So I
Yes.
basically pursued, I spoke lots of languages, and hence where I went to Paris for my gap year. But I've also grew up with a father that introduced me to healing, to other areas of the art. So I had acupuncture, I had former chiropractic, I had reflexology when I grew up.
Hmm.
But I sort of thought in my mind, if I wanted to be that, then I would perhaps, I thought in my mind, maybe I had to be a nurse. And at that point, I didn't think that, I thought that was a bit too much.
Hmm.
And it wasn't until I had been in Paris that I came back, and my stepbrother, Håkan, who's 2 years older than me, he had just been done a year at ACC and came back and talked to me about it. And I just went, wow, that's what I need to do,
Hmm.
because it's a healing art. I always wanted to be a healer, but I thought it's a bit wishy-washy. This was the sort of, early 80s. And then I thought, well, maybe if I can have like a good solid degree or training
Hmm.
like ACC was providing, then I could do some form of healing arts. And that's what made me then go back and study maths, physics, biology, chemistry as an adult in order to apply to ACC.
Wow. Wow.
I would never have believed that I could do it until I knew that that's what I needed to do. That makes sense?
Wow, wow. Okay. So is your brother also a chiropractor then?
Yeah, we have lots of chiropractors in the family.
Really?
He's my stepbrother, his ex-wife, their
Yes.
daughter, and in their family there are lots of chiropractors.
Okay.
So yeah, but not in my biological family, but in the wider family there are lots of chiropractors.
Yes. Like in your surrounding and the people around you.
Yeah, yeah.
And when did you knew this was your calling? Is it before you even studied? And do you felt like studying it's somewhat different from what you expected, or it actually, guides to where you want to be today?
So I loved ACC, but it missed something for me.
Mm,
And I kept
okay.
thinking, because I kept wanting to understand, I wanted to do healing in some form. And
Mm,
at the time, it's all very biomechanical, neurological, but not necessarily
yes.
philosophical. And I think I spent many years trying to think, how can I, as a chiropractor, do healing? And it
Mm,
wasn't until I heard about a book called, what's it called? Hands of Light. And it's got this hands like this on the front of it, where
mm,
she says that when you do chiropractic, you reach a certain level of the aura that we all have around us. I think it was
yeah.
the sixth aura. And then I went, okay, just settle down, do what you do. I also had another experience some years later where I had a patient watching me who could see energy levels around me, or around people, who could see
Mm,
the aura. and I invited him in to come and watch me work. I was
Wow.
treating a patient who was very critical, and this person watched me work, and afterwards told me that when I did an adjustment, he could see ripples from that particular, how can you call it, from the energy center coming out, and various places that I was adjusting. And then I went, okay, chill out, girl, just do what you do. It's
Mm.
fine.
Mm. You mean the energy level, like from your energy to that person energy, or it's just
No,
from
I think I was
you?
shifting something within them.
Wow. Okay. Okay.
Yeah, and I don't do network or any of the other stuff like that. I do
Yes.
cranial work and
Yes.
diversified and so on.
Yes.
But and now with all the research with Heidi Horvick's team in New Zealand,
Yes.
we realize that what we do in chiropractic is so much more than just adjusting at the level of dysfunction,
Mm.
the connection with the brain. And that's another, I mean, Heidi and her team's work has been revolutionary for
Yes.
me.
How would you explain Heidi Havik's work to people so that they understand more or better what does chiropractic actually do to to anyone?
So what I say to people is that 34 years ago when I graduated,
Mm.
we believed that a mechanical dysfunction in the spine
Mm.
could cause problems, issues with the disc and the nerves, and
Mm.
we adjusted it and we alleviated that.
Yes.
Now, what we know is that through functional MRI studies, before you get adjusted and after, we can see that the brain lights up in different places,
Yes.
and some of them prefrontal cortex and other areas of the brain.
Mm.
And I'm not a neurologist like, the big people out there, but
Yes.
it seems like it changes the script of how the brain sees the body.
Mm.
And that means that the brain can then see the body more efficiently and then send more efficient messages to the body to move better. So hand-eye coordination, moving the body, it may mean that we're less clumsy,
Mm.
but it also helps the body to move better.
Mm.
So in the brain we have like a holograph. It's like we have a hologram of the rest of the body in the brain, and
Yes.
that can be fuzzy when we have subluxations in the spine.
Mm.
Um, and then the other thing I feel very much is like when we have subluxations, which I don't use with my patients, I just use spinal restrictions because this
Mm.
is a big one. But when we have spinal restrictions and that's a neurological compromise, then it's a little bit like having a dimmer switch on low.
Mm.
And the dimmer switch is for your neurological, system of your body. And when we get adjusted, it regulates, so it can
Mm.
regulate better. It's
Mm.
not too much or too little. So that's just nutshell, because then obviously there's so many other things that they've done.
Yeah. And what inspired you to pursue pregnancy and pediatric? Is it more pregnancy or is it pediatric that you're focused on initially or even now?
I think uh, both Steve and I we just, I don't know, we were just passionate about doing pregnancy.
Yeah.
And so in 1993, when I sort of moved to England, I decided that I needed to understand pregnancy, but I wanted to know about pediatrics. But to
Mm.
understand pediatrics, I needed to understand where the traumas could come from a pregnancy point of view.
Mm.
And in those days, there were, no online searches. So I had to write to the library of ACC, now HSU, and pay an extortionate amount of money to get articles, read through the
Really?
articles. Yes, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Even in
I can't tell
ACC,
you.
even in the university, they don't have it for like in the library or something?
This was 1993, so in
Oh,
those days it was very different.
right.
And then I read the articles and I summarized and I looked at the references, and then I put together an idea in my head. How does this work? How do you look at a baby? How do you case history? How do you examine a baby? What are the things you look at? And then in 1994, I went down to then ACC on my own and taught in June in mid exams, where they were all mid exams, and we had a fully booked room of students just desperate to learn about pregnancy care and
Wow.
chiropractic. I had
Wow.
the old slide, it was before PowerPoint and all of that. And I just put together my view of
Mm.
why do we treat pregnant patients. And in those days, there wasn't that many who did pregnancy in the UK.
Yeah.
And then we were invited back to do pediatrics. So then Steve came with me for a few years.
Yeah.
And then I carried on teaching at various master's levels and so on, and I keep learning. And it's a wonderful period of time.
Mm,
I think we're different people. When I learn something, I feel I need to share it. Other people, when they learn it, they hold it on for themselves. I just have this thing that I want to share what I know,
mm,
and it's genetic. My father was the same, so you can't change who you are.
mm. And that also segues to what you preach. You're passionate in terms of what you do, and also, more importantly, being authentically yourself, not doing what people tell you to do based on what success that was defined by someone else. When did you have this realization, and what is an advice that you give for people then that's trying to find the direction in life?
Yeah. Mm, when I worked in Sweden and in England, and I think when you graduate, you start going out to seminars and you meet people, and there are some people who just talk about how much money they earn, what cars they bought, and all of
Mm,
that rubbish, which doesn't define you and who you are. You know, if they're a bad experience, it's really important to look at that and look at, okay, but that was an experience that defined me. It helped me look at who am I and what do I need. And I
mm,
think it's very common for young people when you graduate to blame the boss that the boss isn't good or kind or whatever. But instead look at, well, the boss isn't right for me
mm, mm,
and it's not right for me, and therefore I need to go and work somewhere else, or I need to tweak. And I think the sort of some of the realizations that I've had, I've been very lucky to have very, very good people to work for. In Sweden, in Reigate, I worked for a man called Chris Hampton. I worked for Anna now Osborne for 12 years, and I was very lucky to have incredible principals that I worked with.
mm,
And I think one of my first realizations was that I felt it was very difficult to have the doctor title, and I just didn't somehow, just couldn't gel with my patients somehow. And
mm,
there was something that didn't work. And she said, Tony, just ditch the white jacket, ditch the title, ditch the thing that you should be authoritarian, and
mm,
just be you who happens to be a chiropractor.
mm,
And when you have children in your community that you work, you are a parent and a chiropractor, and you
mm,
can be both. And when I did that, everything changed. All of a sudden, I met my patients at a different level. So it was human to human instead of doctor to human.
mm,
And that worked for me. It may not work for because I'm comfortable in my own skin, it may not work for other people, but that worked for me. The other realization I had was that I was a seminar junkie. I went to every seminar I could until I had kids. And then you have to disseminate everything you've learned. And then you think, but I can't put it out that I can't do it. And I remember an acupuncturist who's passed now, she said, Tona, just stop. And in every moment with your patient, be present. And whatever you believe in, you can believe in opening up to something called the Akashic records. But there is an infinite knowledge out there, and just open up to that. Just be present and open. You will know and have the knowledge you need at this moment for that patient. And just
mm,
trust that you have that instead of thinking so and so have this skill, so and so know this, so and so have this skill. Ignore all of that. Just think about they are there with you for a reason and a purpose. And suddenly I was with patients and I had insights and intuitive insight that I don't know where they came from, but I became much more present with my patients.
mm,
And no, just accepting I am here right now and they are here for a reason and I'm going to give them what I can.
mm,
And that means that you need to be able to come in and be present when you are working, not think about the laundry or your arguments with so and so or whatever. The other thing, and there are a couple of really important ones for me, was that I realized that I went to, quite a lot of techniques are how can I say, they're recipe bound or they follow protocols.
mm,
So SOT, AK, and I did SOT and I love what it stands for, but I can't follow a protocol.
mm,
I've been to other seminars and I go back and it doesn't click for me.
mm,
And some years ago, I realized that I'm intuitive, so I link into something else and I listen, I feel, I take in through hands, vision, other things. And I've always thought that maybe that was lesser than those who are maybe more protocol based. It's
mm,
just different.
mm,
And I think if everybody can have a reflection on that, then we won't feel so. I mean, chiropractors have the biggest imposter syndrome problem in the world. It's a huge problem for chiropractors, hence why we go to so many conferences and seminars, because we always think that we don't know enough.
mm,
It's a huge thing. It's a huge thing. And I don't know, it definitely in chiropractic. So we stop and think, okay, I know. And even if you just graduate, I know enough for this patient right now.
Mm.
And you look after ourselves, do the self-care things that you need to do. And that shifted things for me. Suddenly I didn't have that imposter syndrome or the sort of inferior conflict. Because actually intuitiveness is just a different skill.
Mm.
The last one, really, one of the big ones is I've been very fortunate to work with people who said, work how you want to work. They have never held me back. And I worked with people that into pregnancy and they said, do that. I'm happy for you to do that, do that. That's how I practice with my associates. I
Mm.
love watching them grow and finding their intuitive, their own individual way. So in chiropractic, there's this thing that the more patients you see a day, the more successful you are. Successful, the better you are somehow.
Mm.
But I think we need to have a conversation about that because
Mm.
we're all individual, and every single person will take chiropractic their way and express it their way. As
Mm.
long as we follow our guidelines and the country we're in,
Of course.
that we do our notes and we follow all the guidelines.
Mm.
But we need to give ourselves ownership to be the chiropractor we want to be. And if you are working in a clinic where they tell you have to do right atlas, left SI, and do it this way, timing wise, it has to be at a certain time,
Mm.
then, and that doesn't work for you, it doesn't gel with you,
Yes.
then you are not in the right place.
Mm.
It's not that they are wrong, it's just that it's not right for you.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we have to take ownership for that because there's a lot of associates who whinge at their principals because they don't do this and that. Well, you have a choice to leave, and I
Yes.
think everybody needs to take the responsibility. And you can also talk with them and educate them, and they might change their mind. They might
Mm.
open up. So I went from 15-minute appointments to 20. And in the old days, we had gowns, changing
Okay.
rooms,
Okay. Yeah.
cubicles. And now I do half an hour because I decided I'm going to be 60 next year, but I
You
decided
look
before
60. You don't look 60.
very I anyway, I decided that if I'm going to do this job until I retire, and when I decide to stop,
Mm.
I need to love it. I need to feel good about it.
Mm.
I'm not doing it for anyone else. We're doing it for ourselves. And
Yes.
I want to be able to come in and not feel that I'm rushed.
Mm.
And my way of working needs half an hour.
Mm.
The way that I express my work. And when I did, I had guilt trips about it. I felt bad. I charged more. But it's been the best realization for me. I come into work, I look at my patients, I don't see as many, but the
Mm.
ones I see in my way.
Mm.
So yeah, so there are a couple of things that
Yeah.
really transformed.
What would someone look for then when they want to find a place that they like to work in? Or is it better
Mm.
for them to, open up their own clinic so they can work their way? How do you usually advise people?
Oh, I think it's really helpful to go and shadow as many chiropractors as you can
Mm.
while you're a student. And I did that. And just look at what they do and imagine that you have this big sack with you and you put in all the bits and pieces that you like with that. And
Mm.
then you get an idea of what's important to you. I definitely would not recommend that you open up your own practice straight away because you need to learn from these people. They're
Mm.
all mentors, whether
Yes.
they are to your liking or not.
Mm. Mm.
They teach you, there are a lot of people out there who taught me how not to work,
Mm.
or how not to
Yes.
treat associates if I have my own place. So every experience teaches you how to be
Yes.
a very, thoughtful and mindful
Mm.
principal. It doesn't just think about yourself, but think about the people and think about
Mm.
your patients and so on. But I would recommend that. When you graduate, don't look at the shiny, shiny. There's speed dating now, the company's coming down. There's a lot of clinics who have a lot of money and they will pay for a lot of things for you, but you may not necessarily get the pastoral care you need.
Mm.
So my generation graduated and we had nothing paid for us. We didn't have retention fees. We didn't have association fees
Yeah.
paid at all. We just had to make it work. We
Mm.
traveled over counties, to get enough patients. And it's different now. It's a different scenario. It's
Mm.
harder for younger patients to graduate. But I would definitely say it depends what you're interested in.
Mm.
You will learn through that experience what's important to you. If you're a chiropractor who just want to go in and see a ton of patients but not get necessarily that involved in their emotions and feelings, And that's totally cool.
Mm,
If you want to work in a open base practice or open plan practice, and that really works for you energetically, you go in and you adjust and you don't get too involved in some ways. You don't talk that much with the patients
mm,
each time that you just work, you do your flow, or whether you're happier being in a closed room with them. The only one who can decide that is you, and you just need to experience and try it all.
mm,
And then have a mentor, have people that you trust, look up to, that you can go and say, this isn't working for me, this doesn't feel right for me.
mm,
And I think having a coach is one of the best investments that you can have.
mm-hmm.
Finding the right coach as well, because
Exactly.
you can find coaches that, they're coaches that focus on you just seeing as many patients as possible. But if that's not the right way for
Right.
you, or coaches that make you sit down and really reflect what's right for me.
With that said, what inspires you to do what you do? And also, how do you find the right mentor or the right coach? Is it just
Yeah.
trial and error or?
I think, yeah, you sometimes you have opportunities to see them when they're teaching and you get an
Mm,
idea,
okay.
and you can do a clarity call with them. I don't coach, but I think there are some amazing people out there, and you can also, I think, let's just say in the UK now,
Yeah.
in this environment here, there are some amazing coaches, and they're quite diverse. So
Mm,
you can ask people, what's your opinion about these coaches? How do they work? And you
mm-hmm.
can get an idea if that feels like that suits you or not.
Mm-hmm.
So what inspires me? Every day I come to work, you see miracles, small or big.
Mm,
I have patients that I have cared for 30 years.
yeah.
They follow me in 3 clinics, and I work with a whole family. That connection is just incredible. When you have a baby, I mean, the pediatrics was the biggest thing for me, because
Mm,
when you see a baby, if you can help a baby, have a better birth because you're caring for the pregnant mom.
mm,
Um, and then when they're born, if you can help to realign them and release them from birth, you look at them and you think, okay, so you could have gone that way
mm,
or this way.
yeah.
And when I have had babies where they're not communicating because some reason they're shut down and they're not expressing, or they can only go to one parent, and then you
Mm,
release them and they suddenly they look at you with their eyes, they literally look at you for the first time.
mm,
Mind blowing, power we have to switch on. Children who can crawl better,
mm,
roll around better, that the consequence of that is that they're going to be able to move better the rest of their life.
yeah.
Children who cry incessantly
Yes.
and have been traumatized for whatever reason, if it's birth or whatever, and you can help them. Sometimes when you help the mom to hold space for the baby,
Mm, mm,
know, the baby's in trauma, mom's in trauma because she can't help the baby,
mm,
and help and release the baby. Sometimes we hold on, we sort of we work with the parents too.
yes.
Recently I was working with a mom who didn't know how to hold the baby, and so that my job was really to help her to hold the baby.
Oh, that's
And it was a beautiful thing to give her show her that she can hold her baby with confidence, and then the
mm,
baby relaxes.
yeah, and you know that if parents just want the best for the baby and they want them to grow as healthy as they can, and
Yeah, and then obviously in the last 10 years I've been focusing on teenagers with mental health and anxiety. I would have teenagers, parents bringing in the kids to me
mm,
who had been everywhere, had therapy, had tried everything,
mm,
stuck, locked at home in the bedrooms. And I just adjust,
mm,
cranial work, and we chat, but we chat about stuff.
mm,
And some come every week instead of therapy, and we treat them.
mm,
You suddenly see them go opening up a little bit, having a little bit confidence doing this, and from not being able to go to school at all, being able to go back to school half a day and a whole day. And that's why I started my charity, because I was working so much with teenagers
yes.
with mental health.
That is the horticultural therapy that you initiated at the what back
Yes.
garden or something that you have in the clinic.
Yes, so the greenhub project for teens. So there's a space behind my clinic that is up. It's a wall garden. It's secret and it's secret. And I took it over in 2019. I
Yes.
took over the lease. There's no access other than through my practice.
Mm, mm.
Sorry, Milford. The idea came to me from listening to a podcast with Dr. Chatterjee,
Oh,
and
okay, yeah.
he interviewed Yuan Hari, and
Okay.
he wrote a book called Lost Connections.
Mm,
And what we do, we connect people to themselves.
mm,
That's what we do in our job. And this book was about how can you help people is there a cure for depression? And he traveled around the world, and then he told stories from places where people came together
Mm,
from all diverse backgrounds but found a common cause. One of them was a horticultural garden.
mm.
And I suddenly thought, what if we can bring teenagers into this garden? Nobody can see them. And there was no organization doing that at the time. So
Yes.
I spent a year trying to see if we can put it together. But in 2020, I asked my former business coach to join me,
Mm,
Vanessa, and then together we formed a committee. And in 2021, we had things in place. We ran our first garden sessions for 5 teenagers.
wow.
And it was watching these young people
Yes.
nearly about 4.5 years ago now, watching them grow. And then we had 2 sessions, and then a second place, and then a third place, and nearly a fourth place now, where we're offering these horticultural therapeutic gardening
Mm,
sessions.
mm.
It's not counseling, they are in nature. So they're using 5 principles, which is connecting, being present, learning, giving back, and moving the body. So it's called the 5 ways to well-being.
Hmm.
And they leave the phones behind, and they're just out there, and they're doing whatever you need to do in the garden at that time, and they do arts and crafts as well. And
Mm,
week by week, they heal.
mm. Is it usually like the same people that comes every week, or is it different people, different teenager that comes,
No,
or
you sign up for 12 weeks.
oh nice.
Um,
Oh
yeah, so it's very it's a very, very, how can I say, controlled way. We
yes.
always have 3 adults with them. We have, what is it, 60, 70 volunteers now.
Mm,
And we do 4 week trainings 4 times a year for the adult volunteers.
yes.
And yeah, so it's very, so now, since I lost my husband, I'm not now a trustee only,
Mm,
because I was very heavily involved in the sort of the background work. My life took a different path, but it's one of the biggest things that I've done in my life, really. And I've also got a whole new group of tribe of people around me that I just can't believe how amazing they are, and
mm.
they're not even chiropractors.
Well, just people, isn't it? That happens to be a chiropractor or happens to be something else also, isn't it? It's not just a
Yeah.
title or profession that you're doing. It's a human
But
being.
what I would like to do as well, if I may, is that after my husband died, I wanted to support the team at the Octagon Chiropractic Clinic, and I
Mm,
wanted to give them sort of coaching and mentoring.
mm,
And then I came up with the idea that we could maybe ask people around the world if they could do so. And then my friend Philippa Wilmot joined me, and we
mm,
created the Octagon Circle. And
mm.
it's a 2 year initiative, where we actually have over 30 people who's asked if they can teach for us. But it's once a month
Oh,
we'll run a webinar,
yes.
and it's very, very affordable. But
Yes.
all the money is going towards Heidi Horvig, PhD student Jenna Duer's work on babies, and cranial work.
Wow, okay.
And,
Yes.
and it brings me back to the beginning of me and Steve's sort of what we believed in.
Yes.
In fact, when I taught with Heidi in Edinburgh, I don't know if it's 20 years ago, but it's a long, long time ago, I approached her and said, "Oh, wouldn't it be amazing if you could do, functional MRI studies on the babies that we treat?"
Mm,
And she
mm.
just said, "Just throw me money, give me money, and I'll do it." And
Wow.
now
Wow.
she's doing it with Jenna, and I'm able to, through the Octagon
Yes.
Circle, give money towards that.
Mm. Yes.
It just takes a while sometimes to get things to happen, but you've got to hang on to it.
Yeah. Everything comes to a circle, isn't it? The thing
Mm,
that you give
mm,
back, the impact that you provide to the community also. Is the Octagon Circle
mm.
is it ongoing or is it like starting
Yes.
soon or how is it with that?
No, so we started in January, and I'll give you the link to it.
Yes, that'd be
And it's
helpful.
it's about 10.50 a month.
Yes.
And if you join now, we've been going since January, but you can then go onto the platform
Yeah.
and you can get access to all the
Replay and
courses.
everything.
And it's cheaper for those who have been on paternity
Mm.
leave or paternity leave or coming back to practice.
Mm.
And you can download the CPD certificate from it as well.
Wow.
So we're having our last session next week with Anne Matthews, who is a Belfast based chiropractor,
Mm.
who specializes in the sort of the parental bond with the baby.
Mm-hmm.
And
Wow.
she's phenomenal,
That's
absolutely phenomenal.
exciting. Really looking forward to
Yes.
all the different
Mm.
things that you're doing. Before we wrap things up, we're coming towards the end of our conversation. I know we're just starting to scratch the surface. What is one thing that you want to leave people, or you feel like everyone would do better, or like, the world would be a better place if everyone knows about this?
Oh. But that's a big, oh my Lord. I think taking personal responsibility for
Mm,
yourself, your
mm,
feelings and your emotions. So, like personally, I meditate
mm,
daily,
mm,
and I do things that I call non-negotiable practices, my non-negotiables.
mm,
And I think if we do that, if we do self-development, whether you have counseling or coaching, take responsibility for your thoughts and feelings because it will make a difference to the people around you.
mm,
And I think if everybody did that, we wouldn't be in a place that we are at the moment,
mm,
politically.
mm,
But instead of complaining about what's going on in the world, go back and look after yourself.
mm,
And then your cosmos around you will be impacted by that. And
mm,
the people around you will be impacted by that. And
mm,
whether it's just by the way you are, or, it's not about going and telling people what to do, but, just minding yourself.
mm,
And there's one thing I want to say, and I think I wrote it down. This is just to chiropractors.
mm,
So if you're a new chiropractor starting out there and you're working with colleagues, very common practice is that people look at your colleagues and see how busy they are. They look at your colleagues' list and
mm,
see how many patients they have. And that will plague you for the rest of your life if you don't get rid of that. So if you can get rid of that and just go, I'm just going to focus on myself, my list, my patients, not
mm,
being selfish, but I'm going to focus on that. How am I attracting patients? How am
mm,
I caring for them? And how am I keeping them? You will take away so much unnecessary jealousy and worry and stress
mm,
what other people do. It's not
mm,
that you don't care about them, but don't let it be a burden to you because
mm,
your patients come to you for you. So if your patients see your colleagues for whatever reason, don't be jealous about that. It's that let them, but work on yourself.
mm,
Who am I? How can I be myself? So that's on a chiropractic basis. And I think that can change your life if you stop comparing yourself.
mm,
You could set up a clinic in the desert and get patients if you're really centered and you
mm.
know who you are and what you give.
Knowing thyself. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah.
That's a really good way over there. Is there anything you want to leave? Any last words you want to say? I know I'll leave all your details, the Octagon Circle, all the different things that you've been working on and will be working on in the future. Is there anything exciting that you are working on at the moment, or are you just working with the ones that you are having in hand?
Yeah, my life at the moment is running my practice in Surrey, and I took over my husband's practice.
Mm,
So my life has been,
mm,
really immersed in that.
full on, yeah.
And then at the same time doing the Octagon Circle.
You're doing many different things, Luna.
But it's only 2 years, and
Mm,
I had a big love. I had a big love with Steve, and so grateful to have him in my life for 34 years. And I
mm,
wanted to the legacy of him. I felt if I could if I could inspire others through that, then that would be a lovely legacy to leave behind for him in his name and honor.
mm,
I mean, he was a pregnancy expert, and he did no promotion at all,
mm,
no marketing at all.
mm,
He just worked, and he had a 7 week waiting list.
mm.
And so, personally, I think that social media is great for reminding people and inspiring people.
Yeah,
But I think the best way to build word of mouth, really.
exactly. Yeah.
But social media in any ways is a support to tell people who you are and
Mm.
so on. And he just was an amazing big person, and that's what I'm doing right now.
You're just continuing legacy, and I'm sure you're also impacting many, many people in certain, just one baby, but a baby goes on and the family,
Yes.
people around the community, the schools, teachers, so you're doing great things. And what?
And even if you don't do pediatrics, even if you treat an adult, I
Mm,
remember asking a woman for a testimonial. She
mm,
says, "Oh, I don't know what to say." And so she asked her husband, and he
yeah.
said, "You're so much nicer to be around."
Mm, yeah.
And I thought, and she couldn't see that, but any person we impact, you will impact
Mm,
everybody around them.
mm,
And oh, this is the best profession in the world. It truly is such a blessing if chiropractic is right for you. And that's why it's so important you find the right person to work with if you are an associate, because you can
mm,
blossom,
yeah.
you can blossom out. And I see so many practices where they try and shut people
Yeah.
down and just work in a certain way.
Mm,
And those they have huge turnaround in associates because doesn't gel with them, you know. And I think a sign of a practice is when people stay for a long
Yeah.
time and they're happy. So yeah, thank you
Thank you
for
so much for your
letting me.
time.
Thank you.
And we'll leave your details in the description so that people can reach out to you. And hopefully we'll speak soon also, Tona. Thank you so much for your
I hope
time.
so. It was
Thank
lovely to
you.
meet you and lovely to meet you again. Thank
All
you.
right. Have a
Take
great
care.
day then. Then take care then. Thank you for tuning in to the Life of Being podcast. Let us know what is your one key takeaway from this episode. And if this conversation inspired you, share it with a friend who might find it helpful today. Until next time, take care of your health and take care of your being.